Joining us now, Congressman, 1st District, Virginia, Rob Wittman. He's also a candidate for governor of Virginia in 2017. Right now, 3 candidates in the race: Rob Wittman, Corey Stewart, and Ed Gillespie. Pete Snyder, we just had him on a little bit earlier. Snyder saying that he will make a decision whether he's going to get in the race after the November 8th election. So Snyder, a maybe. That's the only other one we expect to get in, except Frank Wagner says if it's a primary, he's in. So things still moving about. Rob Wittman, good to have you, man.
John, great to be on with you this morning. We appreciate the opportunity.
Well, always good to have you. We had you on a couple of times in Cleveland. We appreciate that. And by the way, I just want to tell everybody that the only member of the Republican Congressional Caucus to go to Cleveland and hang with the grassroots was Rob Wittman. I just wanted to say that. He came on Saturday, and he didn't go up in the little glass houses on CNN, and he didn't come in a limo in the back door and go up the elevator. He hung with the common folk at the delegation, and he was there with us the whole time, getting up early, coming on our show, got over the parking garage in Cleveland 6 a.m. one day, and he was eating the same lousy eggs that we were, so we appreciate that. Also want to give a shout-out to Glenn Davis running for lieutenant governor, who did the same thing in his mellow yellow. He came up and hung with us, and we appreciate that. So, Congressman, thank you for that. So let's get to your assessment last night of the Clinton Love Fest.
Well, typical at a convention. She laid out what I thought was not what I think most Americans view as the current situation in the United States. I think, too, the promises that were made there, I don't know where the resources come from to fulfill those promises. It's easy to do those things, but the reality is, I think most people sense that you can't do that in a responsible way and still have an economy that functions the way it needs to. That you are now growing government even more. I think people look at government today and said, listen, how are we going to grow government even more when there are multiple areas in government today that are not efficient, not doing the things the way they need to be done. So it's easy to come in and paint this picture that nothing is wrong in America, everything is great, and that we're going to add all of these nice promises to that, and that makes a perfect world. But that is very, very separated from reality, and it's separated very much from the people that I talk to on a daily basis, John, that have deep concerns about where we are as a nation, the things that we need to do, and what truly are the fixes to our current situation, whether it's what we need to do to rebuild our military, what we need to do to address the deficit and the debt, what we need to do to address this war on police. I mean, none of those elements were addressed yesterday. What are we going to do to destroy ISIS? And none of that was part of, I think, people's deep anxiety about national security issues, economic issues. In fact, I would argue many of the proposals there were actually counter to that. So
it seemed like her objective yesterday was to solidify the base. Basically, they did a very good job in choreographing this whole thing. I mean, I'm there Monday. There's not a flag to be seen. People complained about it. Last night, everybody had a flag. So, I mean, it's this whole thing is staged. They're Hollywood masters. They did a great job at that. The Republican convention in Cleveland, I thought, was much more organic. There was no Hollywood stuff going on there. It was just, it is what it is, bare and simple. But it seemed like her objective last night was to really throw red meat to the base and get them fired up and go from there. I thought she accomplished that objective. You?
Yeah, I think so. I think probably for what she believed the Democratic base was looking for. And I think that, at least within that realm, I think, though, that there's as I said, with the people that I hear from on a daily basis, I think there's a disconnect to the reality that this nation faces. But as far as the things that I think the Democrat base wants to hear, certainly that was the mainstream ideas in her mind, not mainstream U.S., but mainstream Democrat base ideas that she put out last night.
All right. What does Trump have to do to win this race?
Well, I think he has to continue to talk about the issues that the American people want to hear solutions to. Our national security, I think that's a tremendous place of anxiety for the American people, as well as what we're going to do here on the homeland. We see these acts of terrorism not only here in the homeland but around the world. What are we going to do to address that? Also, what are we going to do to address this spate of violence against police? I think people are very, very concerned about that. I believe Donald Trump talking about those things and creating at least a sense of leadership and how we're going to address those things, I believe is what he can do to be successful. Additionally, on the economic side, John, as you pointed out earlier, almost stagnant GDP growth. I think people know that this economy has so much more potential there. What are we going to do to unleash that? And I think him putting out, his plan and how we can reinvigorate this economy. What do we do to revamp a tax code that actually encourages investment, encourages savings, encourages small business growth? I think those are the things that people are looking forward to and know instinctively that more can be done. I think that's the place where Trump can go to really be successful in this election. And I think that the ideas that he's put forward, in conjunction to the ideas that the GOP has put forward, our GOP House members have put out an agenda called A Better Way, which I think truly is, John. It's got a lot of great ideas in there, and I think having that conversation with the American people, letting them know what our ideas are, how that platform of ideas will make this nation better, I think is what people want to hear. I think we've had 8 years of the other side putting their policies, their ideas into place, and 70% of the people out there believe the nation is going in the wrong direction. I think we have a great opportunity here. Donald Trump and every member on the Republican side that's running now, House and Senate, have a great opportunity to say there is a better way, and let's let the people know what that is. Let's not only talk about the policies there, but let's paint the picture about how the United States would be different under that agenda, under a leadership of Donald Trump and a Republican House and a Republican Senate.
Okay. Now, look, you're right. And if 69% of the country thinks we're headed in the wrong direction, and that was the most recent public survey that came out, that's 7 out of 10. 69%, 70% of the country thinks we're heading in the wrong direction. I mean, I'm looking at this thing last night, and I'm thinking, what country are you in? Or what am I missing? Or maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just overtired. 70% people say we're heading in the wrong direction. And Hillary last night was basically outlining a third term for Barack Obama, status quo. Everything is fine. Everything is going great, never better. But 70% of people don't think we are. 13 million people voted for Bernie Sanders. 15 million people voted for Donald Trump. Trump has a rally. 25,000 people show up. If everything was hunky-dory, why is this happening?
Well, John, I agree, and it's not in people's minds. As I said, not only do the polls reflect that, but all around the first district and the state of Virginia, as I talk to folks, they are not satisfied with where we are. There's a deep, deep sense of discontent, a deep sense of anxiety, and I believe a deep sense of wanting something different. So I think doubling down and saying, hey, the status quo of the past 8 years puts this nation in a great position, and we need another 4 more years of it is not, I believe, where people see the greatest opportunity for this nation going forward. I think there's a great sense of anxiety that we in the Republican side have to capitalize on and say, here are our ideas, and here's where we can make things better. And I truly believe that that's what this election is going to boil down to. Now, I know that there's going to be a tremendous amount of negativity here. But
yes,
I think when you look at Secretary Clinton and lay out the things that have been part of her time in this administration, whether it's Benghazi, whether it's the email scandal, and people ask themselves, is this the individual that we believe has earned the public trust, has shown that they have the leadership ability to do the things necessary in difficult situations? I think the answer to both of those questions is no, and I think people are looking for something different. So, that sense of the country going in the wrong direction, that sense of anxiety, I think is something that we have to be able to say, okay, there is an alternative. Here's a different viewpoint. Here's a different way, a better way for us to do things, and give us the opportunity to really get this nation back on track. And I believe that the American people do want something different, and I do believe that we can engage them. We can earn their trust because obviously Secretary Clinton has not through her actions, and our ideas are better ideas than the Democrats. Period. I think that in my mind, in how we have addressed these issues, is plain and simple. And our job is to communicate that, get people to see that, to fill out this framework and how the United States would be different, in what direction we would go in under Republican leadership of the executive branch and continued Republican leadership in the legislative branch.
Congressman, let's get to just one comment I want to make, and then I've only got a minute and a half for your Tim Kaine assessment, so you gotta be fast. One comment I want to make: the lobbyists were out here in full force. I mean, every party I went to, you had every lobbyist and their brother was out here. So as far as this reforming Wall Street thing, that's a complete myth. Tim Kaine, is he going to be the reason that Clinton carries Virginia? Yes or no? And why? 90 seconds.
Well, I think it certainly increases her chances of carrying Virginia, and that's just the reality of having her VP as being the current senator and former governor of Virginia. So I do think that brings with it some coattails. What we have to be able to communicate is that this election isn't about Tim Kaine. This election is about Hillary Clinton as the president and commander in chief. So I think that's where the discussion has to take place. But the reality is, Tim Kaine's presence on the ticket will influence, I believe, a certain number of Virginia voters.
All right, that is going to be the final word. We want to thank Congressman Rob Wittman for being with us. Want more information? Go to whitman.house.gov, whitman.house.gov. Don't forget, Rob Wittman running for governor 2017 in Virginia, and you can get involved with that with his political action committee as he travels the state. Congressman, thanks for being with us. Thanks for coming to Cleveland and hanging out with the common folk. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much.